Welcome in to this Wednesday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily with a much less confrontational crowd than we saw in the Hornets-Pistons game. I'm Carmine Jamay here in Greenville, joined by my favorite two guys to be on TV with. That's Rick Henry over in Columbia and Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston. And fellas, we're starting by talking about fight night, Monday night, between the Hornets and Pistons. We had multiple punches thrown, players leaving the bench, and then in a separate situation later on, a quarter later, the Hornets head coach got ejected as well. He's the only one of the five who got ejected in this fight situation that is not receiving a suspension. He didn't throw any punches, so he doesn't deserve it, and the players very well supporting Charles Lee for standing up for them in the fourth quarter for what I thought was really flop foul call that was called on Grant Williams of the Hornets, and the Detroit player flopped, and Charles Lee, feeding off the emotions of the fight that happened a quarter earlier, arguing and got ejected. But we now know the suspension timelines for all four players involved in the fight. Isaiah Stewart of the Detroit Pistons, 7 games. Jalen Duren, 2 games. And you see the punishment fitting the crime there in parentheses. Isaiah Stewart ran off the bench like a madman, like we've seen him do. This is now the 5th time that I believe he's been suspended in his NBA career. Yep, that's true. One of those involving chasing LeBron James all around the court in 2021. And then as far as the Hornets suspensions, Miles Bridges for 4 games and Moussa Diabate for 4 games as well. And lost in all of this, or somewhat lost, was the Hornets' really solid performance against the team that is 5.5 games up on the second place team in the Eastern Conference. The Detroit Pistons running away now with the Eastern Conference as far as being in first place. The Hornets still fighting for a playoff spot. And if they would have beaten the Pistons, that would have hit a franchise record, would have tied their franchise record with 10 consecutive wins, falling just 1 game short of that, but still only losing by 6 points to the Eastern Conference leading Pistons. So, Kevin, as far as your opinion, what do you think as far as these punishments fitting the crime? Are they too harsh, too soft, or just right?
I would say for the most part, it's just right. I'm a little surprised Stewart didn't get a little bit more than 7 games just because coming off the bench and he was ready to throw some haymakers once things got going. I thought he might get as many as 10 games. But I think once you get into the gist of things, for the most part, Bridges getting 4 games, Lee not getting suspended, I think this worked out just about the way you would want. And, you know, we talked about yesterday, it wasn't just a matter of the fight going on, but it was also a matter for the Hornets of kind of showing that they belong at this level and that they are one of the better teams in the East right now, the way they've been playing over the last few weeks. So hopefully they set a tone that other teams in the East are going to notice going forward the next few weeks, Rick, coming out of the All-Star break.
My main concern for the Hornets, okay, they got 4 games, fine. But you look at their schedule, their next 3 games are at home. They've got the Hawks, the Rockets, the Cavaliers, then they go to play the Wizards. And they had their 9-game winning streak snapped. I mean, they were playing as well as anyone in the league. And what will these suspensions do as far as killing their momentum possibly, or causing them to lose some of those home games, which could be critical when it comes to making the postseason, you know, getting into the play-in tournament. So that's my main concern with the Hornets. But, yeah, they did send a statement like, hey, we're not going to be bullied. We're not going to be pushed around. We're here to fight. So I'm going to be watching closely those 4 games to see how well they're able to pull it together without those 2 key players.
Yeah. Great points,
or it could go the
guys.
other way, Rick. Maybe this fires them up and they're ready to go forward, you know, and come together as a team after this. And once Bridges gets back, you know, if you can go 2-2 over the course of those 4 games coming up, I'd say that's a win. And now all of a sudden you've won at 11 out of 13 going into the All-Star break.
Yeah, and the good thing is that they have a great backup center. Well, shouldn't say great, but great for his age and development in Ryan Kalkbrenner, the rookie from Creighton, and he's as tall as anybody on the court, so he'll be backing up Moussa Diabate, and then the Hornets can, you know, bring some guys in by committee. Grant Williams has shown some flashes to fill in for Miles Bridges, so we'll see how they adjust to that. With their final game before the All-Star break against the Hawks tonight. Another game tonight is the Clemson men's basketball team hosting Virginia Tech, coming off a 2-0 road stint on the West Coast, even though it's still called the ACC. It was on the Pacific Coast. Clemson beat Stanford in a close one, and then just crushed Cal in the second game of this road trip. So really impressive by them. They continue their streak of more than a dozen conference road wins in a row, which is top 5 all time in ACC history. They're 10-1 in the conference, tied with Duke for the top spot. But this game could be a trap game because they're coming off that Pacific Coast swing where they were out there for almost a week, now coming back home to face Virginia Tech. And Brad Brownell, after the Cal win, was asked how he prevents his team from feeling like they've peaked too early.
Yeah, I don't think we really talk about it, to be honest with you. I mean, we talk about daily work, daily improvement, just focusing on what we can control, like most teams and players. But also we're trying to enjoy the experience and enjoy the journey. These are long, long seasons, hard seasons. We want our guys to be excited, energized. I think that was part of why we played so well on this trip. We know there's a long way to go in league play. And it's just kind of what do we got to do next? And what we have to do now is, get back home and try to regroup physically to get ready for a big week next week.
Thanks, Coach.
So Clemson's now won 13 of their last 14 games. Rick, your concern level for teams in the ACC going off this Pacific Coast swing where they've had a really difficult record as far as their performance in these games back on the East Coast, your concern about Clemson taking care of business at home here tonight?
Wow, because this is like the first time they've had to go through this, going out to the West Coast to play those two California teams. And so I think they'll be fine, but that is such a long grind. My main concern with the Tigers is what are they going to do when it comes March? Clemson fans have been waiting for this team to win an ACC tournament championship. It hasn't happened. The Gamecocks have won from way back in the 70s. And also, how much will the Tigers have left in the tank when it comes to NCAA tournament time? Last year they were done pretty quickly. So that's my main concern with the Tigers. They've got some leeway where they can still drop a couple of games, and it's not going to hurt them much as far as come seeding for tournament time. But I think they'll be okay. But again, I'll be looking to see what happens with the Tigers in March.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this team comes out tonight, not just because they're coming back from that West Coast trip, but also they've got the big game with Duke coming up on Saturday night. So I'd like to make sure they don't make this a trap game and look too far ahead to the Blue Devils, and they take care of business tonight and, get ready for Duke after this one, Carmine.
Yeah, very true. And that game could really be a huge dividend payer to who's actually number one in the ACC, with Duke now 11-1 in the conference, Clemson 10-1. Hopefully the Clemson Tigers can take care of business tonight against Virginia Tech, and then that huge ranked matchup at Duke on Saturday, right before another ranked matchup with UNC in Chapel Hill as well. But we'll be right back with much more sports around the Palmetto State right after this.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We talk basketball in our opening segment, and right now we are going to talk baseball, professional baseball, precisely. Atlanta Braves, they reported the spring training, the pitchers and catchers yesterday, and it's also the first season under new Braves manager Walt Weiss. Now, he's no stranger to the Braves organization. He worked there for 8 seasons under Brian Snitker, and when Snitker decided to step away, they promoted Weiss to the big chair, and he also has experience as a big league manager, spent 4 seasons with the Colorado Rockies. So here is Weiss talking about his first day at spring training as the Braves' new skipper.
It was different, a little different, yeah. I've been here 8 years, and today's the first day I sat in that chair in that office, so that's different, and it's great. Snit's walking around. He's be a great sounding board for me moving forward. But certainly different. But I've done this before. I'm excited. I'm excited about the job, about our team.
Now, I know there's some grumbling among some fans of the Braves because they didn't go outside the organization to get their new manager because there's a feeling that things had grown stagnant under Snitker. And when you look at Weiss's record as a manager with the Rockies, I think it was 4 losing seasons. So, Kevin, how much confidence do you have in Weiss that he can get the Braves back in the playoffs? They missed out last year. And get them back to a World Series.
Well, I would say I'd be pretty optimistic because I think he's a good baseball mind, and I think this Atlanta team has enough talent that even with an average manager, they should be able to go to at least the postseason and make a run. But the injury troubles these guys have had over the past couple of years since winning that World Series has been staggering, and it just kind of picked up right where it left off on the first day of spring training yesterday with Spencer Schwellenbach. We know that he's going to go on the 60-day injured list right away, and it looks like he's going to need a procedure on that elbow with some bone spurs right in there. So right off the bat, to lose one of your starting pitchers, one of your rotation guys, before you even hit lunch on the first day, Carmine, it feels like it's a bad start, and not much the manager can do about that.
Yeah, and that's been one of the biggest problems. I mean, you look at last season, we were talking about the Clemson guy, Spencer Strider, in and out of injuries, and then Chris Sale going down, and Ronald Acuna Jr., your MVP, tearing both ACLs since that World Series in 2021. So I think health, Rick, combined with Walt Weiss, who brings in great experience as a player, an all-star with the Braves, an AL Rookie of the Year, he could be the best of both worlds, where you have a guy who's kind of fresh, with playing experience, but also knows the Braves organization with those 8 years as an assistant. But if you're not healthy, as you know, you can coach talent, but you need the talent to win as well.
Yeah, because the injuries they suffered last year, especially with the pitching staff, unbelievable. And hopefully it can't be that bad again this year. And also the Columbia Fireflies, they're looking forward to the 2026 campaign because David Novarita is back as the manager, and last year he led the Fireflies to the playoffs for the very first time. They won the Southern Division title, and then they came within one game of winning the championship. So you got Novarita back in place. The fans are all fired up because for the first time they saw some postseason baseball with the Fireflies at Segra Park. And I had a chance to sit down with Novarita today and talk about the upcoming season and his return to Columbia.
It's truly blessed. It's been another, great off season, but also getting back to the community. It's been awesome, and we're looking forward to some great baseball out here in Columbia.
What's that playoff atmosphere like? Because that was something new for everyone, fans, media, Fireflies, playoff games.
Yeah. No, it was kind of what I expected. It was even more. The fans really came out, even for that short notice because you don't know if you're going to play that game 3, and they came out and just were really in support of us. And the players really fed off that energy, and it was really fun to be a part of it. It wasn't on the right end of it, but just so much development, so much great experience for those young players.
And some breaking news for David Novarita also. He got engaged during the offseason, proposed for to his wife-to-be at Fenway Park here in Columbia, and they've set a wedding date for next January. Said, yeah, definitely has to do it during the offseason. So congratulations to him, and looking forward to seeing what he can do with the Fireflies here in year number 2. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be right back after this timeout.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. It's hard to believe, but we are less than 2 days away from the start of the college baseball season. That includes here in the Low Country over at the Patriots Point, where the College of Charleston going to kick things off when they play host to Rutgers for a 4-game series starting Friday afternoon. I got a chance to talk to head coach Chad Holbrook, former South Carolina coach, current CFC head coach, going into his 9th year with the Cougars. We talked today, kind of previewing the season a little bit, and I got a chance to ask him about the comments from Clemson head coach Eric Bakich yesterday about how he he'd like to see the entire season start maybe a month or so later and push the whole season back into late July and just see what Chad thought. And he says this is an idea that's been kicked around by college coaches for a long time, and he's not against it. He says he's actually would like to play more baseball when it gets warmer, but he kind of goes on to say how it's a little bit different for mid-major programs like his, how this would be handled.
The thought behind it is true. However, there's a lot of schools, especially mid-majors, funding baseball programs in June or July might be a tall order. And it comes down to that at the end of the day. Finances is awfully important in this day and age of college baseball or Olympic sports. So we'll see. Would I like to play more baseball in warmer weather? Absolutely. Is it going to get done or is it feasible? I'm not sure. But what Eric said and what Coach Backett's, Randy Mazey, all those coaches that have put this idea forward, it has a lot of validity to it, and it's hard to disagree with, honestly. I think it would create more excitement for college baseball. I think it would put more fans in the stands. And, and baseball is a summer sport, It's our pastime, and it's a sport that's often played in the summer. So I think there's a lot behind that. Whether it happens or not remains to be seen.
Now, you heard Holbrook mention Randy Mazey. He's the former Charleston Southern and West Virginia coach. He said he was kind of the first one to bring up this topic of pushing the season back. I also talked to him about how the schedule would work if they did move the season back, especially, here in the Low Country with CFC and the Citadel and CSU. Pretty much the first month of their season is spent playing teams that come from the Northeast to get away from the weather and, how that would affect their schedule. And Holbrook said it would actually be great because he would like to take his team to Michigan, to Notre Dame, and to some of those Northeast schools and get a chance to play those guys on the road. But he said right now, Carmine, that's a topic that's not even on the table for them.
Yeah, I do love this trend of, we've seen with Dabo Swinney and Eric Backich and other coaches around the country, but specifically here at Clemson, the openness, the honesty, and peeling back the curtain for behind the scenes their thoughts on what's really going on. So that's been great to see in general. But Eric Backich made the great point that they'll play 20 home games in February and March. They'll only play 10 home games in April and May when they're making a lot more money for the butts in the seats that want to watch a game in nicer weather. And so as far as the academic calendar, you'd have to make that work out as well. But Rick, if they can, if you can maximize your money-making opportunities and fans enjoying the game, growing the game because there's less going on with basketball, more going on with college baseball, it seems like it would be a really positive move for the sport, for the schools, making money, and for the fans. It seems like there's very few detractors other than working out the scheduling details.
Excellent point there, Carmine, because like most things in life, it all comes down to the money. And if they're going to make more money by pushing the season back, then they'll find a way to get it done, and they'll just have to work everything else out. So there's no doubt in my mind that that's what we're eventually going to see. And, it would put more people in the stands to watch these games because, the early season games is hit and miss as far as attendance goes.
Yeah, it is. But something else Holbrook mentioned, and he kind of touched on it in that soundbite we heard, was that, a smaller school or a mid-major school like CFC, they've got to worry about, if this season starts going into late July, they got to worry about housing these kids. And, that takes away from the summer kids who are, sometimes are paying to use these dorms and these on-campus apartments and stuff like that. So it seems like a great idea, but logistically there are some problems that might keep it from happening. Holbrook said he doesn't think it's going to happen for a long time coming forward. So just something to keep in mind there. The Citadel also kicking off their season coming up on Friday afternoon. They're going to be over at Riley Park when they open up a 3-game set against Liberty. A lot of expectations for the Citadel this year. Russell Triplett going into his second season as the head coach of the Bulldogs, coming off a 31-win season for the Cid last year, picked to finish 4th in the SoCon this year. Might not seem like a big deal just for them to be picked in the middle of the pack in the preseason poll, but it's the highest they've been picked to finish in the preseason poll in the last 12 years. So Russell Triplett knows that there's expectations on his team for maybe the first time in a long time going into this season, and he knows it's going to be the pitching staff that takes these guys as far as they can go.
I'm most excited probably about the pitching staff because, I don't have this game figured out, but I know you got to pitch to win, and we returned some guys that have some real stuff, and can compete at a high level. I think it's our job to find a way to get them a little more consistent. We've been a little inconsistent throughout from the start of the fall in which guy you're going to get each day, but when the best version of them shows up, it's pretty good.
So as I said, the Citadel kicking things off at Riley Park on Friday when they play host to Liberty. We're going to be right back to wrap up this edition of Palmetto Sports Daily right after this.
Welcome back to wrap up Palmetto Sports Daily, talking about one of the most exciting sports in all of college athletics, and that is softball. Any hit can be any contact can be a hit, and the base path is so short. You sports fans know that very well. And yesterday we saw Clemson softball, the 18th ranked team in the country, earn a run rule win over still winless Furman in an upstate matchup. A bunch of home runs for Clemson. They won 9-1 in 5 innings, and their pitchers combined to allow just 1 run and only 2 hits. Here is the coach right after the win.
And then offensively, we did a great job tonight. Got the long ball out of Jamison Brokenbraw hit a bomb, and Kylie Chanel hit a bomb, and Marion Collins. So the 2 in the first inning were the big hits for us, obviously. And then just got a lot of young players that got in and got some experience, and big win for us. Like I said, it was nice to be back home. A great opening night here at McWhorter Stadium.
And now, after that one home game, the only home game they've played so far, the Clemson Tigers head to Texas for a tournament down there. John Rittman has led this team to 3 super regional appearances, but is still looking for that first College World Series. He's coached them since they first started and hoping to take them through the pinnacle moment for them as well. But that's all we got. We'll wrap it up here on Palmetto Sports Daily. For Kevin Bilodeau and Rick Henry, I'm Carmine Jame. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.